Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's class. So, acknowledge once more if you can hear me. All right, so today we'll be looking at routing in React. So, I believe everybody here understands what routing means, correct? Or should I explain routing? Okay, let's just go ahead and explain routing. So, basically, routing is the ability to move between pages, right? Inside React. I think routing applies to every other thing. It's not just React, so you can utilize routing. Like when you are opening different pages of your book, you're routing through you're like moving through your books. So like the path in which you are using to open to a particular page on your book is what we understand by routing, right? So in React, in essence, we're just saying how do you go about moving from one page in React to another page. So the that's path and method you use to navigate, or the method you use to navigate from one path to another is basically routing, right? Do we understand? Yeah, so in React, we have a tool that we use for routing, which is called React Router DOM. Initially, you need to install the React Router DOM. So what I'll do for the benefit of everybody is drop the command for installing React Router DOM in the text box. So everybody can go ahead and install React Router DOM in the application that we created last week, or you can go ahead and create a new application for the purpose of this routing class and then install the React router into that application. Okay, are we together? Can we move on? All right, so let's just go straight into our code base, right? So basically, when working with routes, or there are different things you should understand. First is your how do you want to organize your application? What are you how are you trying to organize your route? On what conditions should people be able to see a particular route? Should people be able to see all the routes on your application? Do you want to restrict certain people from seeing a particular route? Or people that are not logged in shouldn't see your route. All that are things that we are going to quickly look into today. Please acknowledge you can hear me and you're following. Yeah, so someone says my screen is static. Yasirat, every other person, can you see my screen? Is it moving? Is it static for you? Can I go on? All right. Okay, so Yasirat, I believe that will be a network issue on your end. So, okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so I believe last week we're working on props, and I understand that you guys have really enjoyed working with props over the last task that was given last week. I hope that people actually enjoyed that. That is something that you should enjoy. Josh, did you enjoy working on passing props and your profile card? Oh, excellent. Okay. All right, let's dive into what we have to do today, right? So basically, I have installed React Router DOM already in this application to avoid wasting time, right? So go ahead and install it. Let me know if you are facing any difficulties in the chat box. Okay. All right. So first things we'll use the browser router for the purpose of this class. Okay. There are other routers. When you go to documentation for React Router DOM, you will see other routers. Feel free to explore them and learn. Let me drop the documentation for everyone's perusal. So feel free to explore the React Router DOM documentation that I just dropped in the chat box, right? So you should be able to explore that and then see other methods or tools within the React Router DOM that you can use for routing. But for this class, we'll focus on browser router, right? So now, when we initially, you need to wrap your application, right? Inside your entry point, you need to wrap your application inside the router. So the first step we'll do is to add browser router, which I have already imported here. So as you can see, I imported it from React Router DOM, right? And then I have wrapped our app.jsx with the browser route. So if we go into app.jsx now, we should be able to define our routes within here and they should work perfectly well. Anybody lost? Is anyone lost? So except when you say installed globally, what do you mean? Like installed in your system? Because already installing it on your application is global. It should work globally. All right, no, you install it in your application. Okay. All right, so we have our browser route and we can now define other routes within our application. So first thing is I'll remove what we have here, okay? So we're going to utilize this application for another purpose, basically. So what I'll do now is define the basic routes, okay? So if I come here, I want to have, let's say, two basic routes. And for those two basic routes, I want to have, I want to first of all is import my routes, okay? And then within the routes, I want to declare my routes. And for each route should have a path, right? And then it should have an element. So now what happens here is we are going to be defining the path, and then the element is going to represent the component that should display when that route is called. Okay. So now we have our routes where we define all our routes. Now, as you can see here, within our routes, we can now define our main routes for each page. So if I come here and I say routes, I have paths. What am I putting in this path? Is the particular address, like the address at which I want to open to when this route is triggered, when I call on this route. Then within here, I want to define a component that should display whenever this very route is being called. So let's call the component home, right? And let's also define an about us component. Let's say route path, and then we'll call it about, okay? And then we can now define an element and give it about. Okay. So just as we have done for home page, we can do for about, we can do for contact us page, we can do for as many pages as we want to have in this application. Now, what we are doing here is just setting a rule, right? We haven't actually navigated to any of these pages at the moment. Now, don't get it twisted, we've not also created these pages, right? So back to our code structure. I told us last class that I want your code base to be very explanatory. When I look at your code structure, I should know where to find whatever I want to find, right? So now let's create a pages folder. So let's create a pages folder. And then within this pages folder, I want to have two pages, correct? We want to have our home page, that is home.jsx. And then we want to also have our about page. Okay, so let's just have just basic content. So let's just have basic content here. Okay, to define our home components. So we have our home component and we have this described here. And then we want to have our about us component. So just basic setup, okay? We just have one text. So if we are on the about us page, we should be able to see about. And if we are on the home page, we should be able to see home on the screen, right? So if we come here now, we can't see anything, okay? We're getting some errors. App.js, this could be due to syntax error or import. Okay, apologies, guys. So let's go on. All right. So let's continue with what we have to do. So if we come back to our home page, you discover that we have not actually imported this home page or about us page to our component. So we import home page, right? And then we also do the same for about us page. So someone is asking, did we import the route and routes? Yes, we did. So we did import them from React Router DOM, correct? So we can move on. So let me remove this imports that are not being used. Okay. All right. So now we have this. We have imported our homepage and about us page. So if we come here, we should see something, an error that looks like this. So we have no route matched, no route matched location overview, right? So if we come to our app.jsx, okay, so it's an issue from the browser. The route we are trying to access is overview. So let's go back to our initial route. Okay, so now you see that when we come back to the initial route, which is just the normal slash, right? Based off what we have defined, the rule we have defined here. So at entry point into this application, this is what we want to display, the home page, right? Which is going to appear at the just dash path. So now you see that when you call on the initial load of your application, the home page displays. Now, for us to access the About Us page, all we need to do is go to the route that has About Us page. So once we go to About route, we should be able to see our About Us page. as you can see now. Now, what we have done now is set up the rule for our navigation, okay? Now we want to look at how we can access these pages, not by manually putting in the routes here, but possibly by clicking on the button and it leads us there, okay? Or a link or something like of sort. So let's say we define some routes here. So for the purpose of this class, we will define routine tag. Okay. So let's define a navigation setup here. Okay. So for this nav, we want to have links, but in this case, we are not going to be using, we can use the A tag, right? The anchor tag to handle this navigation. So let's try the anchor tag first. So we are in the About Us page. So if I click on home, it should take us back to the home page, okay? As you can see, you can see the home page here. Let me know if you need me to increase let me just increase it for those of those who are having difficulty seeing. Okay. All right, yeah. Okay, so we have the home, when we are at the home page, we can click on About Us page and it takes us to About Us page, right? So this works, but there's an issue with this, an optimization issue with this, right? At this stage now, you see that it is very fast. It displays immediately, right? But let's assume that this page is a heavy page to load, or maybe you have some SSR work going on here, that is server-side rendering. For those who don't understand what I mean by SSR, we will definitely treat it in future class. In this kind of complex pages where you have a lot to load or render, right? You don't want to reload your page every time you try to change your route, okay? You want to utilize all the benefits of a single page application, right? An SPA application. So in essence, you want to utilize tools that you want to utilize the best or all the resources embedded inside React Router DOM, right? So in this case, we will not use, I won't use an A tag in this case. What I will use is a link tag. So this link tag is a tag that is provided by React Router, right? And instead of an href, what you use to define the path is the tool, right? So for the href, I'll change href to tool and also change the closing tag. So as you can see, it's actually imported under React Router DOM, okay? Now let's save it like this and test out the difference in the two implementations. So when I click on About Us, you notice that over here, the browser sort of refreshes, okay? Are we following? But when I click on Home, it doesn't refresh. It just switches automatically. So this refreshes the page. This just switches without having to refresh the page. So if I remove this and use a link and then and change this to link, we should have a proper application that doesn't refresh, but just changes the routes without having to refresh the page. Now, what we are experiencing now is a one-page application, right? So what happens now is that we are utilizing all the best parts of React in this kind of changes. So you see that this home and about have no need changing. That is why it doesn't refresh. All that needs to change is the content that is being affected by our action, which is where React Virtual DOM comes into play, okay? So now what happens here is that the whole diffing effect happens. So when you click here, all that happens is only the part of the application that needs to change gets to change. Are we following? Are we following? Guys, are we following? I need response, please. Okay, so I understand Emmanuel is not following and Chidel. So Chidel, go on, unmute yourself and let me know where you're lost.
Good evening, sir. I'm just joining based on people were complaining in the group that you didn't let them in. Before I would come in again, the class is already on, so I was surprised. I didn't really understand the app router and the linking that you just did.
So you want me to start again afresh, or you can follow if I explain the route again? Because
I don't know if you can start afresh. Good. If you can just like explain it, like open it and tell me things in, then
yeah, so we cannot start again, unfortunately. So what you do is this class is recorded and we've gone too far, so we can't start again, unfortunately. But what I can do is try to uh you know what, just try to catch up with where we are, okay? After the class, when the video is dropped, check the YouTube channel and try to follow up from what we have there. I think if you do that, it will serve everybody better so that we can meet up with time. We started late, okay? Is that fine? All right. Okay. So I understand Emmanuel also has an issue. Emmanuel, what's the issue?
All right. Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
All right. You're making a distinction between the link and the href. So I actually, you said something about the link trying the href trying to load at an instance, but each time we should study the movements in a way because it switches fast. Right? It is not suitable for a heavy application. So, for every project or something. So, what about the link? I didn't get the explanation of the link very well, please.
Okay, that's something we can go over again. Okay, so in essence, this link is a provision from React Router DOM. Okay, so in essence, if we are, let's assume that you bought a pot, right? And that pot came with a cover, correct? So now you want to cook. Would you use a frying pan to cover that pot? You just got the pot, remember? And it comes with a cover, correct? Will you use a frying pan to cover that pot, or will you use the cover that came with that pot to cover it? Emmanuel, that question is for you.
Okay, I responded in the chat. I said I will use its cover, not the frying pan.
Exactly. Now, we are working with React Router DOM. Look at React Router DOM as that pot that comes with a cover called, or it comes with not just the cover, it comes with other things, routes, browser router, which we have been importing all along from React Router DOM. Now, this link is also one of the properties that comes with the React Router DOM. So when handling routing, it's just right that we utilize what is being provided by React Router DOM to do our routing for efficiency, correct? Hello, Emmanuel, are you following?
Yes, please. I am. I am.
Okay, good. So now what happens is in a situation where when we are using the A tag, that's typical HTML, right? So we use the H tag to define links, right? Using href, correct? Now, the link works the same way, just that it has a different tag name and it has a different attribute. when defining the route or the path, okay? So in this case now, we're not using href, we're using to, right? Because that is how it was designed, okay? So now the difference between this and the A tag now is that the A tag sort of refreshes your whole application. So the A tag is like, it has a custom behavior that when you click on it, when it moves you to a new page, the ideal behavior is to reinitiate the whole page that you called on, okay? Now, when you use the link here, because it is React, and in React, we have the virtual DOM, right? Which is React's superpower, correct? Now, that superpower is supposed to help us in React to make changes only to parts of our application that require changes, instead of when every change is made, the whole application needs to reload, or the whole DOM needs to be redesigned or reinitiated, okay? Now, what happens is when I click on home, you will see that there's a slight refresh here. Assuming the page was a little bit heavier, it will take a little bit longer for it to load the next page, to load the home page, okay? Now, in this scenario, when I click on home, it loads here. But when I click on about, you don't see any loading effect here because it's not reloading the page. It's only making changes to the parts of the application that are affected by this particular action that we've taken, which is the click on this about us route. Emmanuel, do you understand now? Hello, Emmanuel, do you understand? Can anyone hear me? Okay. So Chidel, did that also benefit you? Did that explanation also benefit you? All right, excellent. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's move forward with our work, right? So let's change this to link and then so now this is basic routing, right? So we have designed basic routing in our application that can assist us route smoothly between our home page and our About Us page. Okay. All right. So now let's look at let's go a little bit more in depth. Let's look at nested routes. Okay. So let's assume we want to have let's say something like dashboard, and then within the dashboard we want to have other routes, right? So if we come here, I'll define a new folder and call it dashboard. Okay. So within the dashboard, we want to have dashboard component. Let's see. And then we want to also have an overview component. Then we want to also have a settings component. Okay. All right, so let's have basic setup for settings, and for overview, basic setup for overview also. Okay. All right, so for dashboard, dashboard we'll do a little bit more within the dashboard. Okay. So let's handle other parts of the application. Then we'll come back to handle the dashboard. Now, in order for us to have this routing in place, right, we want to, if we come back to our app.js where we have our basic routing. So I'm going to remove this for now. So let's just comment this out for now and then work with this. So we have our routes. Let's define our dashboard routes, okay? So let's say route equals to path. And then we want to give this path dashboard, okay? Then for dashboard, we want to pass element of dashboard here. So to avoid errors, let's create that. Let's add a basic setup for dashboard, okay? And then we can go back here and import it. Good. Now that we have our dashboard, we are not going to close this tag. We are going to utilize this very route to pass in our other routes, okay? So now we have the dashboard route, which is like the parent. As you can see, if we close this down, you see that the dashboard route is like a parent route, okay? If I open it, you can now see other routes embedded within the parent routes. Are we following? Yeah, that's fine. Well, are we following, guys? So now we have our dashboard route, and then we also have our, so let's bring back this navigation and just add one more navigation to dashboard, okay? So now if we come here to our application, we should see, so it seems like we have an error. Let's check that. So we have an issue because we've not imported our overview and our settings. All right, so let's save and see what happens again. Good. So now we have home, about, and dashboard, right? Pardon me. Okay, so we have home, about, and dashboard. So if I click on dashboard, we should see dashboard too. Okay. So are we on track? Are we following? Anybody lost so far? Okay, everybody's following. Excellent. So let's go ahead and go into our dashboard component, right? And do a little bit of work there. So first thing we want to take note of is the fact that within this dashboard, we want to display our overview, depending on which route we select, correct? And then we also want to display our settings depending on the route we select. So first thing, let's create a mini navigation, right? Within this dashboard component, okay? So I need to create, yeah, parents, okay? So now we have our navigation and we want to utilize the link. So let's say link, import it, and then to let's say overview, okay? And then we want to do same to settings. Okay. Now let's install Outlet. All right. So as you can see now, we have defined our dashboard, correct? And then we have defined a mini navigation within our dashboard, okay? So let's go to our code and see what we have. So we have overview and settings displayed here. So let's just add a little styling, okay? And see how we can look a little better since it's two joints. So let's say class name nav link. Let's take this nav link. So I'm going to be styling in here for the purpose of this class, okay? So what I've done, I've added a display flex, justified the two links, and then I've given them a little gap of 2 rem, right? It showed, yeah, it showed value. Then I've also provided a margin button for our nav links, okay? So if we go back to our dash, let's go back to our UI and see what happens. So now we have overview and settings displayed, right? So if I come to home page, you see that we are not in the dashboard page right now. We are in the home page, correct? I click on about, we are in the about us page, and I click on dashboard. Now we are in the dashboard page where we have the overview nav bar and we have the overview and the settings nav bar, correct? Now, so let's if we now click on any of these, it should either route us to the overview within the dashboard or route us to the settings within the dashboard. So if I click on overview now, you can see that we are in the overview component page, right, of the dashboard. So if I click on settings, we're also in the settings page. So now we have successfully nested these two routes inside the dashboard route. Now, if you come up here, you see that the dashboard route now has the settings when you've routed to the settings, right? It shows settings here. When you route to the overview, it shows dashboard slash overview. Okay. Now, if you remember when we're defining our routing rule, we did not put any dashboard slash overview or dashboard slash settings. But because this components have been defined as children to this dashboard, they can display within the dashboard and they can also be appended to the link, the route link, okay? Now, how am I displaying this overview and settings? I'm utilizing let's go back to dashboard. I'm utilizing outlet, okay? So outlet is a provision too of React Router DOM, okay? As you can see, I'm importing it from React Router DOM. So what outlet does is when you define a route in a particular component, and then you define children routes in that component, if you utilize this outlet within the parent component, when you route to any of the children components, this outlet will display that child. So this outlet is like, well, just like the name implies, it's an outlet. So it's like the parent component's outlet for displaying its children pages. The parent page outlet to display its children pages, right? Now, I know that you guys have seen dashboards and you can, from what I have explained now, you can now understand, especially when dashboards are written in React, how these dashboards are able to be displayed inside the application, even though they are like one route, and they can still display other children, other pages within that dashboard route, okay? So this is a simple way to handle nested routing. Are we together, everyone? So I need to be sure that up to at least 5 people are with me. So I will need to see some more responses. So, Michelle, just unmute yourself. Let me understand. Just give me a brief summary of what you've understood so far. Just talk about basically nested routing. Okay? Let me hear from you, please.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
What I've understood about nested routes is that like you can put routes inside of another route, and it renders it as a child from that route. That dashboard is the parent. Then these overview and settings are nested inside the dashboard, and they're going to be rendered as the children of the parent, the dashboard.
Okay. And you
Yes.
understand what the outlet is doing?
Yes, I understand the outlet is the one that is rendering the child routes.
Okay. So Josh, I'd like to hear from you. So go ahead and tell us something. Maybe it can be your own POV, your own takeaway from what I have explained so far.
Okay. From what I've understood, you said about routing. It's okay. Actually, routing. You said that routing was it's navigation to different pages, right? Then yeah, so navigating to different pages helps to navigate to different pages. If am I saying it right?
Yes. So do you understand why we are using the link instead of
Yeah.
an anchor tag?
Yeah. The links helps to let's say route or go to the destination without re-rendering the whole page, but the anchor tag would have to render the whole page.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I see people leaving and joining. Is it a network thing or is everything all right, everyone? A lot of people leaving and joining and leaving and joining. Are we together? Oh, it's network. Okay. All right. That's fine. Apologies to everyone. Network can be bad, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and look at one more concept in routing, right? So who can give us a little explanation on protected route? So you don't have to be right. Just trust me, nobody is wrong, right? What do you understand by protecting a route? What do you understand by protected routes? Anybody, just raise your hand. I will call you up to speak. Okay, so I guess some people are shy. So let me call somebody. Bello. Yeah, Josh, your hand is up. You will speak next after Bello. Hello, Bello. Hello, Bello. We are way behind time, so please can you speak quick? Okay, let's hear from Chidel. Protected routes.
Sir, I have not come across it before. I'm still a beginner in React.
Yeah. Well, it's not about the routes, it's protection. What do you understand by protecting a route? What comes to mind? Like, that's the question. What comes to mind first when you hear protect this route?
It's, it's all about security, like protecting something about privacy and the rest.
Okay. So Josh, let's hear from you so that we can move quickly. Yeah, Josh, are you there?
Okay, so I might be totally wrong, but okay, when you are asking the question,
Sorry, when you asked the question initially, something came to my mind though, but as you are kind of resounding it was sounding kind of different. But let me just say what was in my mind. I was thinking is like going to routing your entire page to a particular page in if that page does not exist.
Okay.
That's what I have in mind.
So what you just described is like a fallback page, right? Like when you define an error page, right, in your application. So when you are routing to something that does not exist, it should fall back to this thing, right? That's what you're trying to
Yeah,
explain, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good
Yeah,
attempt.
I have something to say.
Yes, please go ahead. Who's that?
Yeah, it's Obina.
Okay, Obina, go ahead, speak.
Yeah, I think protective or protected route is a restricted page for some. So for example, as an admin, there are some pages that are open for admin, and if you are not an admin, it will be restricted to some members. That's my idea.
Okay, so Yasir, right, let's hear you too. That's also a very excellent attempt.
That is the same thing I wanted to say, that you are protecting it from the person has to log in for them to be able to see that page. Like you have restricted.
Okay. All right. So let's piece together everything that everyone has said so far, right? So basically everybody has something correct in what they've said, right? And I appreciate the attempts. Thank you so much, guys. So basically protected routes, right? Like your colleagues have said, is just a way of protecting some routes from access. So basically you might have a route that requires like I think who said that? That was not yes, right. That was Obina, right? So Obina talked about having a route where you want only admins to access, right? So that means when a user is logged into your application, the user will probably be assigned role. Okay, so when that user role is probably just user, the person should not be able to access some kind of route. Maybe the person should not even be able to access the dashboard, correct? But once the user's role is admin, the user should be able to access the dashboard. Now that's like high level stuff, right? We can just look at it simply that, okay, you don't want people to access some kind of pages without them logging into your application. So you have a landing page and probably you have a dashboard. So you want a situation where before people can access your dashboard, they should first be logged in before they can access your dashboard. Okay. Now, for the purpose of this particular example that I would be showing, we will utilize context, right? We will use context. Use context is also a React hook, okay? So we will utilize it and then we will create a custom context so that we can handle, I'll show you how to handle state management globally, okay? That way, it's easy for you to implement it in one place and then utilize it every other place in your application. Okay? Are we together? Are we together? All right. So basically, context, right, is another method of managing states, right? Just like you use states to manage states internally, context is a more global concept of managing states. You can use context to share values like authentication status between components without having to pass props manually to every level. Okay, so now instead of passing props from parent to child, and then you now start doing drilling by adding more children to that company, you know that if they are not children to the parent company, they won't even be able to access the prop, right? But when you use context, context gives you the room to define all your define your state in one place and then access that state everywhere in your application. So you don't necessarily need to access the state in the parent component. You can just go ahead and go straight into your child component and access that state, right? So you can utilize it to set up checks to share the state of login in your application. So you want the station when somebody is logged in, you want to globally set it that this person has logged in, and then you should be able to access that login status everywhere in your application. Is anybody lost? Yes, so you can actually use that's exactly what we want to test, want to implement now, but we are not still go we'll still look deeper into context in our future classes, right? When we start doing the high level state management. Okay. So but I would still try my best to make sure that you understand what we are doing with the context that we are going to be utilizing today. Okay. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. So let's go ahead and create a file called auth context. So I'll create another folder and call it context. Okay, and then inside context, I want to create a file named auth context. Okay, so now for us to create context, we will be importing first of all create context. This is going to be imported directly from React. Okay, then we will also import use context from React. Okay, and then let's also import use state because we are going to use use state to set the state of our authentication for the purpose of this class. All right, thank you to that person. Yeah, pardon me, I'm used to writing TypeScript. Okay, so just to change the T to J. Okay. All right. So for this purpose now, we will first of all initiate create our context, right? So let's say auth context, and then we have auth context, and then using create context, we have created this auth context. So presently now, this is an auth context, this is the context provider that we have just created that we'll be using inside our context, okay? So now let's go ahead and create our function, right? So let's export const auth provider. Yes, let's call it auth provider. And then for this auth provider, we will be passing children into this auth provider, right? So let's go ahead and define our state. So we want to use login and say is logged in. Okay. Is logged in. And we want to set is logged in state to false, initial state to false, okay? Now let's have a return statement here that will return our auth context, okay? So now for our auth context, we say auth provider auth context dot provider is equals to, sorry, value And then for value, we want to pass both our is loading state and the function to set loading. Okay. Then that's children and we are good. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and create our custom hook. So our custom hook is use auth. Okay. So now I know that we might be lost. So I have somebody here. Your hand is up, Josh. Go ahead, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Actually, I raised up my hand when you immediately switched to context. I was wanting to ask the difference between nav links and links.
Between what? Sorry.
I wanted to ask the difference between nav links and normal links.
Okay, nav links and normal links.
Yeah.
So
Or
I think
maybe
that,
when you're
yeah, that's an
the content.
HTML thing. That's an HTML thing. I think you have to do that research on your own, okay? All right. Is that fine? Can you do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Excellent. So maybe you can talk to me about it, and when you do finish your research, we can brainstorm on it inside this Discord, okay? You can start
Okay,
the
sir.
conversation and everybody can communicate there, can brainstorm, okay? Right. Okay. So are we together, everybody, so far? Josh, do you understand what we're doing at the moment? Are we good?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. Okay, so back to what we have. So we have our default, our custom hook that we have created. Now, for this custom hook, we are just saying that we want, every time that we utilize this hook, we want to access our auth context. Yeah, so the provide is a content of the auth context. You know that over here we created the auth context, right? Now this provider is a content that has been provided by this create context to this auth context. So now, after creating this context, this auth context is now a full context of its own, right? That has provider in it. Okay. So what we are assessing the provider, and we are supposed to provide this auth context to any children that is attached or added to this context. Now, don't worry, you understand that when we add the context to our entry point, okay? So what this custom hook does is it retrieves the context value. That is, this will retrieve the value of this context, of this auth context, anywhere you use this use auth hook. Okay, let's go ahead and add our provider, this provider, to our entry point. Okay, so let's go to where good. So from here, in order to add our provider, we want it to cover the whole application, right? So we say auth provider, and then we cover. So we're going to pass this auth provider around our application. Okay. So now what we've done now is our application now is like the child to this auth provider. Do we understand what's happening? Are we together? So what next will be to import our auth provider here, and we should be good to use that auth provider. Okay. Now, anywhere we utilize our use auth, we are going to, it will be easy to just, it will be easy to access our auth provider, right? So now next step will be to define our protected route. Are we together? Okay, all right. So what we'll do next is to define our protected route components, right? So I would like to, let's just add it to our context, okay? So let's say this is our protected route logic that we want to define, right? Pardon me. So protected the route, okay, dot JSX. All right, so we have protected route dot JSX. So for this protected route, we want to import, navigate from React Router. And then we also want to import our auths, our use auths, right? Yeah, Udo, go ahead, ask your question, please. Yeah, Udo, please, you can unmute and ask your question. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, maybe she's having network issues. We'll get back to her when she's back. For those who are hearing, do we understand so far?
Hello, sir. I can hear you. I'm using my phone, so I
Okay.
was kind of having difficulty
Okay.
putting on my microphone.
That's fine. Please go ahead. Ask your question.
Okay. Okay. While you were creating the auth contest, inside the file of the auth contest, there was something that was being exported. So I was thinking you were going to explain that, but you
Yes,
didn't. So I was wondering.
this, right?
Exactly. Use
Yeah,
auth.
so I explained,
So
you probably did not get me. So I'll go over it again for you, okay? So what we did here, this use auth. So you understand that React, right? React has these default hooks, like the hooks that are pre-designed and installed inside React, okay? Are we together? Which include use state, use context, use effect, a couple of them. There's also use memo, right? Now, what I have done here is create a custom hook. Just like when we created the custom button that we could reuse in different places, right? This is a custom hook. The purpose of this custom hook, right, is to retrieve the content, that is the value, the context value. So we want to retrieve the value of this context anywhere we implement this use auth hook. Okay.
Okay.
Do you understand? Now I think you understand better when we actually utilize the use auth. Okay, so let's go ahead and use it, and then we'll see if you are not clear, we can always double back. Okay. So here now you see that I've imported that very use auth that you just asked about.
Okay.
Can you see? Okay, and then I've also imported navigate from React Router DOM. Okay, so if we come here now and I create, let me export this, and then create const protected routes. Okay, are we together? So for this protected route that I've defined, I've created this protected route function. I want to pass children to this protected route. Okay, now I want to check the state of his login. So first thing I'll do is to destructure his login, right? From our use auth components, okay? So first thing I'll do is to extract the value of is logged in from our use auth, right? So this value. So I'm extracting this value. This is logged in from the auth context. That is this whole this context. So as you can see, you have the value here. See the value. Is logged in is a value. The function to set login is also a value, right? So what I'm doing now with this is extracting these values from this context where I am using use auth. Okay. So if we come here now and I declare this use auth here, I can extract the value of is logged in. So if let me write this code and then we'll do something. So let's say if I decide to return is logged in, right? And then I want to conditionally display the children. Okay. So I want to say if this is logged in is truthy, display the children. But if it is not truthy, navigate automatically back to my landing page, Abby. So for the purpose of this class, our landing page is the slash, okay? I believe everybody should understand why we are using that as landing page. If you come back to your routes, we have home as slash, right? So we define that route there, okay? Now we can go ahead and close this function. All right. So now what we've done ideally is that we're now saying if the user is logged in. So let's do something here, okay? Let's see the value of is logged in our console, okay? Okay, so we can't actually see that because we've not actually used this protected route yet, so it will not trigger our console yet. We will look at it when we finish utilizing the protected route, okay? So, but basically what we've done here is that we've assessed the value of is logged in, and we are saying if it is truthy, we want to display the component that we have called. If it is not truthy, we want to navigate back to our nav bar, okay? So let's assume that we want to protect our dashboard route. Are we together? Now let's go back to our app.jsx, okay? So here now, since we want to protect our dashboard route, okay, we are going to, let's bring this down and bring this down. Okay, that works. So inside the element tag, I am going to, I have defined the protected route and I have placed our dashboard inside our protected route logic, okay? So now what happens is that this protected route is protecting the dashboard. Are we following? So
Yes, sir.
Yes, so if the dashboard is, if this the value of is logged in is false, right? Like it is right now in hold on. Like it is here, right? So you see that the initial value is false and we have not added, we've not changed this value, correct? So if we save this and we try to look over here, we should not be able to see the dashboard, okay? Okay, so there's an issue. We have not imported our protected routes. Okay, so with this now, we should be able to, good. So you notice that if I try to click on dashboard, it will always take me back to home page. It will keep us on home page. It will not take us out of the dashboard. Do you understand? Are we following? And then if you check our protected route on the console, you see that it is showing us false. right? So now, in essence, what we have done now is that if the user is not logged in, we don't want this route to display. Ideally, if we go ahead and call the dashboard slash settings, it should do the same thing. It should take us back to home page, because all these are already nested inside the dashboard. So the fact that we have protected the dashboard, these ones also benefit from that protection. Are we together? Is anybody lost? We are together. All right, excellent. So now, if we click on dashboard, we cannot access dashboard. But if we come back to where we defined our auth context, right? And then we change this to, say, true, okay? If we change this to true and save, we should be able to access our dashboard now. So if we click on dashboard, we should be able to access our dashboard now, because our protected route is showing this truth. So I want to give room for questions based on what we just did now. So go ahead, ask your question. Could be from the context point of view, or just from what we've done. Yeah, go ahead, guys. Just raise your hand. Udo, are you raising? Is this new, or is this from when you raised your hand previously? Hello, Udo, I can see your hand up. So I'm asking, do you have something to say? Do you have a question? Or I shouldn't bother? All right, so Michelle. Michelle, are you following? Do you understand what we've done? You can unmute yourself, please. Can anyone hear me? All right. Okay, so let's hear from Adelani. Go ahead. Just
Good evening, sir.
yeah, good evening. Do you understand what we've done today? Do you understand? Are you clear?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been following.
Okay, all right, excellent. iPhone, I thought we talked about this iPhone name. I need to communicate with you better. So I need to know your name, okay? Help me change that iPhone next time, please. But go ahead, I want to hear from you. Are you there? Okay. And since he's not responding, let's hear from Rahim. Rahim, let me hear from you. Let's hear. Rahim, you can unmute yourself, please. Udo, you want to say something?
Yes, please.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, please. If you don't mind, can you run through this the auth provider page where you had auth contest provider and then you added children? I want to understand the part that children is playing
Is it
there.
here? Is it here?
No. The page you were on
No,
before
here, right?
you came here.
Is it here?
Exactly.
Okay,
Because
so
obviously this is where the contest was created. So I need to understand what part the children is playing there, and then how we reflect when you now want to take it down the other components.
Okay.
I
So
don't
in
know if you
essence,
understand my
what we are
question,
doing
sir.
here, I understand you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I think I'm lagging or
All right,
something.
okay.
But I can hear you.
No, that's fine. It's okay. So in essence, what we did here is create a context provider. Okay. This is a context provider, right? And then for us to utilize this context provider, we now utilize use context to access that provider, which is the auth context, okay, which we created here.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
Okay. Yeah.
for this to work, remember that we are wrapping our application with this auth context, correct? So when we come to
Yes.
.jsx, we wrap it with our auth context. Now, the whole of our application is the children that you're talking about here.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Good. So we are nesting our application inside the context because we want the whole of our application be able to access whatever we have defined inside this context without having to pass down props. Okay. Now, for us to access all the logic that we have done here, we are now defining our own custom hook, which is the use auth, so that we can extract the value of this context. Now, when we go to where we are creating our protected route logic, we are now saying, okay, any child that we wrap around this protected route, which is this, right? Any child that we wrap around this protected route should not display except it meets the criteria that we have set for this page to display, okay? Now, what are the criteria we've set? Now, we've set is login criteria, which we set here as false initially, okay? Good. So now what that means is this is false at the word go from the initial state that we've set. So when we access it from this use auth, which is our own custom hook that we created from our context.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what we can now do with this is that over here we can extract the value of is loading from this use auth. When we extract this value, in essence, this is a Boolean value, right? This is a Boolean, is a Boolean data type, okay? So now we check if it is true or false. So now we say, if it is true, which is this sign, we understand what this does, right? We're saying if it's true, we should display the children, which is possibly any component that is being wrapped inside this protected route.
Inside the dashboard.
Good, which is a dashboard, okay? Now, at the same time, we are saying that if this particular is loading is false, it should redirect us, it should navigate us back to home page.
To the home page.
Good. That is exactly what this is doing. So now when we come to our app.js where we are defining our routes, and then we wrap our dashboard inside the protected route. So now this dashboard is now the child of this protected route where we define here, these children. Okay, are we together?
Yes, I get it.
Good. So what happens now is, because we have wrapped this dashboard inside this protected route logic, it will not display except that is logged is true. Okay? Are we good? Are you good?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Now remember, good. So now remember that we did nesting here. We nested these two routes inside
the dashboard.
route. Okay?
Yes.
Good.
So it's affected too.
Good. Because they are children to the dashboard route. All the children of this dashboard route will be affected by this protection. So in essence, if his login is false, none of these routes will be accessible. Likewise, the dashboard route. So this slash dashboard will not be accessible. Slash dashboard slash overview will not be accessible. Slash dashboard slash settings
That
will not,
setting will not be accessible.
yes, will not be accessible too. But as soon as it's loading, it's logged in, it's truthy, all these routes, these 3 routes will be accessible.
Accessible.
Yes. So right now, from what we are seeing here, we cannot access the dashboard route. No matter how you click on it, it will not open. Okay? Because it is protected. It will always display the home page, which is the 1/, right? Now,
Yeah.
once we change
It's
this,
to true. This
once we
state
change it good to
true.
true, once we change this to true, we can now access that route. Once I click on dashboard, the dashboard route opens, and I can also access overview and access settings.
Yeah, got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other person? I hope that explanation benefited those that are shy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Obviously.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay. So I believe we can end the class now. Thank you guys for joining us today again. It has been a very rewarding class. I appreciate your inputs and your feedbacks, and I look forward to seeing you guys in our next class. Thank you guys.